So I think most of us would agree that the game of college football is one of the best things ever invented. Yeah, and there's, we watch these videos, we make these videos, we watch the games on the weekends. It's the competition and all of it, and just what's going to happen next. What's going to happen with my team. All of that obviously plays into it. But something that we as fans have to deal with, and the game just has to deal with, is the officiating. And more times than not, it's good officiating. It's okay, but when it's bad, it completely goes off the rails. Um, if people will argue about this and that, over college football, whether arguing for this team against this team, for this conference against whatever, but you really want to get a fan base riled up about something, then make sure there are some problems with the officiating in one of their games. You never really hear too many ideas for fixes about it, what to do about it. And I've got a couple of ideas, and my ideas aren't worth a whole lot to most people, but I have heard this said before. But in the system that we've got right now, as everybody knows, kind of lay a framework here. Officiating is done by conference. The SEC officials, ACC officials, Big Ten, and so on and so on. And for every game, whoever the home team is, that whatever conference the home team belongs to, they supply the officials. Now, obviously, if it's a in conference game, well, it's easy. But if Tennessee from the SEC goes and plays Florida State from the ACC in Tallahassee, then there's going to be ACC officials at the game. And like I said, 9.5 times out of 10, there's no problems with it. But already this year, this past weekend, we saw two examples of questionable officiating that obviously went back to review. But and maybe, I'm not going to get into the calls and whether I thought they were right or wrong or whatever. The calls could have gone either way, but obviously, the teams that the calls go against, there's obviously some drama there. The Virginia Tech Miami game with a Hail Mary pass at the end, you know, and then the Minnesota Michigan game, where at the end of that game, uh, Michigan's ahead by just a few points. There's 90 seconds, a minute and a half left to go in the game. Minnesota kicks an onside kick and recovers it. Flag comes out. They said one of the Minnesota players was offsides. And of course, everybody in the great state of Minnesota saying no, he wasn't. But flag gets thrown, back them up, re-kick again. They went for it again. They tried onside kick again because one possession, a couple points, they were only behind by 3 or 4 points. But they kicked the second onside kick. Michigan obviously, knows it's coming. Even if they didn't know it was coming the first time around, and Michigan gets the ball, runs out the clock, Michigan wins the game. So again, right, wrong, or otherwise, when you have these problems, then you start hearing all of the backlash afterwards. And something that you hear, and I've heard this really go into the Virginia Tech Miami game. This isn't me. This is just I'm just kind of parroting, what has been said, and I'm sure y'all have probably heard this too. But Virginia Tech Miami, that was an all ACC matchup. So obviously ACC officials there. And, kind of one of the accusations that started being thrown around was, well, they sent that call Miami's way because Miami was ranked number 6 at the time. And, the ACC has to protect their only team in the top 10 or top, whatever. They've got to protect their playoff hopeful team in the ACC. I think that's garbage. I think that's crap. I don't think there's anything to that. But when you start hearing these kinds of accusations, and this is what's going through people's minds, you're like, okay, you're obviously not going to make a change for anything, whether it be officiating or whatever, to make everybody happy. But I did come up with an idea. Hey, call me crazy. You wouldn't be the first one, but here's my idea. Excuse me. Consolidate officiating nationwide. Do away with SEC officials, ACC officials, Big Ten, what have you, whatever, and have all of the officials belong to the CFP, to the college football playoff, whatever committee, organization, whatever. So every Division One official that goes and does a game comes from them. They don't come from the conferences. So especially if you get into a situation where you've got teams from two different conferences, like if it's a Florida State situation, um, South Carolina, Clemson, Louisville, Kentucky. I mean, you name it. If you expect, and I named those off because of them being long-standing rivalry games. Um, there you go. If you have some questionable officiating, well then, one conference isn't just going to get lambasted and accused of cheating or improper whatever. Consolidate the whole thing. And another thing that lets them do, you ensure that all officiating is governed by the same people. Now, yes, that isn't to say that they have different rules in the SEC than they do in the ACC, but at the same time, you've got one group of people in charge, not six different groups of people in charge, or four, or what have you. Um, Basically all the officiating would answer to whoever was on the playoff committee at the time. Um, and especially now with, you know, we are solidly in, this era of the college football playoff. This year and next year it's a 12 team. They're already in talks. I might talk about this in another video later on, but they're actually meeting this week. They're athletic directors and university presidents and all these different people meeting this week in Nashville, thinking, okay, where do we go from here? Because the setup we have now for the 12 team playoff, um, in that design is really only good for this year and next year, because of TV contracts and location contracts for the games, and basically the money end of it or whatever. The contracts that they have, the agreements that they have for this 12 team playoff are only good for this season and next. And kind of tease what I may talk about later. I'm sure y'all probably already heard this. They're talking about possibly going to a 14 or a 16 team playoff. But here's the thing, and this is the a lot of the reason for some of the meetings they're having. They're wanting to propose that there be more um, automatic bids, if you will. And basically, what has happened, the SEC and the Big Ten have gotten together in sort of a coalition, if you will. And they're saying, all right, here's what needs to happen. Let's go to 14 teams. The SEC will have 4 automatic bids. The Big Ten will have automatic bids. Give 2 bids to the ACC. Give 2 bids to the Big 12. That's 10, and then 4 at-large bids would be 14. Yeah, I think I got the math there. But yeah, 4, 4, and 2. Yeah, 4, 4, and 2, 2, and then 2 more. So yeah, public school guy, forgive me on that one. But basically, we'll see how that goes over with everybody else, because that's just the SEC and the Big Ten proposing that. That the ACC and the Big 12 are just going to lose it. They'll be like, well, and they're going to say, why do you get 4 and we only get 2? What if we have, better teams, kind of farther down the line? And so there's a million different points of contention and debate that are going to come out with that. But with this officiating thing, like I said, week 5 gave us 2 um, dramatic events that affected the outcome of the game, obviously. Now, there were probably questionable officiating calls in every game that was played. And obviously, I don't have a list, and if I did, I wouldn't go over all of them. But those 2 examples that I gave you were examples where the outcome of the game was actually affected. And that is one thing I do not like. And I am going to call this right down the middle. This is really, I mean this is really how I feel about this. Whether the call should have gone one way or another, not just in the Virginia Tech, Miami, and the Michigan and Minnesota thing, but whatever. A game should never be decided by the officials. Period. I don't know. And to fix that, I don't know if maybe the replay system needs to be revamped a little bit. Just the way they go about that. More cameras, more camera angles, officials positioned different on the field, and that's something in the Michigan Minnesota game. The Big Ten has already come out and said, well, because that whole thing happened the way it is, we're changing the rules on where the officials need to be to watch, a kick like that. That whether you agree with me or not, the first time I heard that, the first thought that went through my mind was they are admitting they got it wrong, and this is their attempt to fix it in the future. If a controversial officiating call that went to review and everything kicked up that much dust, that and then in hindsight the conference is coming back and go, well, in response to all of this, we're going to change things, and this is what we're going to do from here forward. That's almost like an admission of guilt. Because if you knew that you didn't get it wrong, why is there a need for change? You know what? So that was the way I took it, right, wrong, or otherwise. But yeah, the officiating thing, like I said, you can watch any game pretty much on any level and see the fireworks. It's crazy some of the stuff that we've seen over the last couple of years. But maybe consolidating all the officiating under the umbrella of the football playoff, you know, machine would be the way to go. Don't get me started on the NCAA. If they actually came out and said we're going to consolidate all the officiating, but it's all going to belong directly to the NCAA, and what I'd be like, well, that would be worse than what you've got already. But I digress on that one. Maybe this is the way to go. Maybe this is the way to go. But again, like always, I appreciate you listening to me ramble a little bit. We've had a great time making these videos. That I really have, and I appreciate the positive feedback that I've gotten from several of you, and I won't forget it. And I really won't. But stay tuned. Well, I hope to have some more kind of preview videos coming up. There's a couple of games that I want to kind of sound off on and kind of look into and see. Games obviously coming up this weekend. Um, then when this weekend rolls around, probably, and I did this last weekend. I'll probably give just like a little video that'll just be a brief rundown of everything coming, and I'll hope to do some halftime kind of reports of what games that I'm able to watch. I'm going to be doing a little bit. I'm going to be doing a little bit of traveling again this weekend, not too far, but really just for the day. But I'll be able to keep up with scores and games and all that kind of stuff. So I'll try to post and do a few updates, and then Sunday we may come back with a recap, or if anything just crazy and incredible happens, we'll talk about that too. But we'll press on. As always, hit that like button, share these videos with anyone you think may get a kick out of them. We'll see you next time.